Ka-126 HOODLUM. Greetings all, this is Charles in North Wales, and this is the unboxing and build vid for the Ka-126 HOODLUM-B. Development of the HOODLUM-B Ka-126, which is the successor of the Ka-26 HOODLUM-A, began in 1984 with the signing of a governmental Romanian-Soviet agreement in the field of aeronautical construction for cooperation in manufacturing a utility helicopter derived from the Ka-26 in October 1985. The signing of the collaboration protocol was for a single turbine powered version. In 1986, Industria Aeronautică Romania started the helicopter manufacturing preparation. Early mock-ups had two small turboshafts above the cabin. Single turboshaft was adopted subsequently. Ground test vehicle was completed in early 1986. On 22nd of December 1988, the maiden flight took place of the IAR-built Ka-126 with a TV100 engine. Produced by Turbomeccano Bruschetti, an Italian supplier, and VR126 main gear. After building 17 Ka-126 helicopters, production was stopped, and after 1991 the program was cancelled. It would appear that the orders just weren't materializing for this, and it also pretty marks the period when things went a bit tits up for Eastern Europe. So, bit of a brief history on this. I really struggled to find pictures of any with clear Romanian registrations. The only pictures you're going to find are ones with what I call the sales helicopters with Aeroflot markings. Right, greetings to all. This is the unboxing vid for the Kamov Ka-126, otherwise known as the HOODLUM-B. And you've probably just seen or you would have recently watched the video for the Kamov Ka-26, and this is the development of that aircraft. A model once again. And if we'll start off with the instructions and then look at what we have. So actually it's relatively simple and straightforward, and because it doesn't have the external engine pods, there's a little bit less to this kit. So as always, we are subjected to our 50 multiple shades of green, multiple shades of grey, background information in both English and Russian. The colour call-outs with the humble references, which as always can be cross-referenced. Sprue map, particularly with A model, this is absolutely critical because sometimes these parts are indistinct and you will need to refer to this a lot. So very, very useful. Also image of the decal sheets. So what you get with this kit is 4 sprues of opaque plastic, 1 of clear, and the decal sheet. No photo etch or resin or bits and pieces like that. Construction, as always, starts off with the cockpit. And in this case, it's a full cabin with the forward and aft as a single part, rather than as a separate pod, though I understand this helicopter was designed to have the same sort of modularity as the 26. Not too much difference in the cockpit, but the instrument panel is smaller, and when you read the background on it, was one of the design objectives of this. Because it's got just a single gas turbine engine, it has less instrumentation, and they made an effort to improve to reduce the size of the center console on this, and that it comes out in this. Simple bench seats for the rear cabin. Upper part of the fuselage, again simplified because it's a casing for a single gas turbine engine. The rotor assembly, yep, contra-rotating, is fiddly, and if you see the previous video, you'll see what I went through with this. Undercarriage is the same as the Kamov 26, so these elements are certainly common. Then the final assembly guide: different windscreen wipers, same rear view mirrors, and the color callouts in this case, this is just for the one version, and it's in the generic Aeroflot markings, which is what it seems. I need to find out why the Russians use Aeroflot markings for things that, you know, they haven't got another scheme for, but there's got to be some reason for it. But anyway, so it comes in just the one markings. I haven't found in my research many other scheme options for this. There's a couple of Russian schemes and a couple of Romanian, but they are actually quite hard to find. I will be using this unless I find another one that I like. Otherwise, I'm just going to go for the kit markings and the kit decals as well. I've already been prepping my paints, putting together the paints to deliver this. So that's what I've been focusing on for the time being. It may not be this, but I will have to probably airliners.net or something similar to give me an indication. So let's start with this. Okay. This is actually quite nasty on flash. Around the cockpit, the cockpit of the frame, you're going to have to look quite carefully at these parts to work out what is flash and what isn't. Apart from that, fine bordering on soft recessed panel lines. Bit easy to lose the detail on these. They disappear quite easily if you're not careful. Two-part instrument panel with the central console actually butting up against the inside of the canopy frame. This would actually be almost an external part on the actual helicopter, but they mold the canopy as the front glazing as a one piece with this sort of tucked behind it. So your masking has to imitate this part as being part of the canopy frame. Internal cockpit back wall detail is okay for what it is. No significant sink marks, which is quite nice. The upper fuselage, which is quite specific to this machine. Mold quality is a bit better, I think, than the 26, and it's nice and simple, so I can't see this creating too many problems. That face there is the inside of the cabin and inside of the fuselage, so there should be less alignment issues. The tail fin is the same. So the two-piece engine exhaust may prove maybe something that needs a bit of cleaning up and tidying up to do a decent job of it. Again, the same quite faint panel lines. Now, these sprues are the same as the Kamov 26. Or they are very, very similar. I think they could actually be the same. A little bit less flash. This isn't quite as an older kit, which is a good thing. But you're going to run into the same issues, particularly with the actuator rods. But I'll still try and work through it. The rotor blade attachment points are very, very small. You've only got, what, maybe 2.5 millimeters by 3 millimeters of a butt for the butting face. So this does need to be backed up with super glue a bit and then painted a darker tone to hide any lumps. This is a particularly tricky point. I would suggest put these on as late as you possibly can. The undercarriage, this is the same sprue as from the 26, includes the same seats, and the same external fuel tanks, which I have not seen on any images of the 126. So, and the glazing is a brace for impact, I feel. A little bit more distinct, but not by much. This is exactly the same sprues, same size side windows. Trying to put on the masking tape and burnishing it is going to prove exceedingly tricky as before. I may even, before I do any masking tape on it, scribe this central door line on here. Side doors are the same, no changes there, and you see, you cannot actually, no, you can't really feel the framing on the canopy, even though this is on the actual aircraft quite pronounced on the nose. So that's going to take some issues. I will endeavour not to put the same glue marks on it as I did previously. Different side windows though, so this is the same sprue as from the 26, but there's larger side windows. Again, how these fit in to here may prove interesting, and you can, I think you can already see that these are significantly larger than the actual apertures, so these are going to have to be opened out, as it was with the last ones. With two of them I had to cut them from plastic card. It's either open these out or reduce these down, or just make fresh ones. But there's significant size difference. If you put, actually, if they fit from the inside, might not be so bad. Looking at it from the outside, fit definitely issues, but if chamfered the edges, this might be an easier fit than I anticipated. And on with the decals. Now this is for the one generic Aeroflot or Kamov's own demonstration model markings. Quite a lot of little stencils. Not excessively crowded decal sheet, which I like. As I said, I'm not yet 100% sure what colour scheme I'm doing for this. I'm not doing a what if, it's got to be one that's actually correct for this type, but there weren't many. And I'll have to see if I find something with Romanian serial, with a Romanian civilian registration. I may well go for that, but I also have to have the decals for it from my own collection. So it may well be in this marking in this case. The main ones I can see giving a problem are this yellow door frame. The rest of it I don't see creating too many issues. Then again, they could just disintegrate as well. So it'll be a case of I have spare Aeroflot decals. Nice thing I like is that they do include the actual name. So if you want to do this on a display base, you can use that lettering to put on a display base, which is a nice touch. So I'm about to plunge it into this again. I think this is going to be easier than the 26, but it's still going to have problems in very similar areas. A little bit less flashy, which will help things along. So that's the unboxing of the Kamov Ka-26. Preceding this will be the history chunk, and after this will be the builds chunk. I think for these series of builds, it's going to be build vid, history, unboxing, and build it. So this is, I always, as you can imagine, film this bit first. So A model ref 7272. I know this kit is still about, it's still available if you look on Hannon's and places like that. So it's not in the rocking horse shit category, or as rare as rocking horse shit. You can still get this kit if you want to build it. You'll find finding this a lot easier, a hell of a lot easier than finding any models of the Kamov 26, which is a bit sad really, but anyway. So Kamov Ka-126 by good old A model. Right, so here we are with the Kamov 126. Fuselage coming together. Had to put a base piece down to hide the interior seam. Bottom seam was dealt with Delux products Putty, which was then overlaid with super glue, allowed to set and then sanded back. So I think that's a reasonable seam there. Bulkhead definitely created some issues. So I didn't fit to begin with, and I rather overdid it on the sanding to shape, which means I've created a little bit of a gap. The gap down here is not so much of an issue because that's hidden by the cockpit floor, but this side, so if you do get this kit, take a bit of care with trying to keep the shape, though you need to take the width and the heights down of the forward bulkhead. The aft bulkhead is not quite as bad, so yeah, a bit of thin plastic card does help on the inside just to hide on the cabin floor, otherwise you're going to have to be filling an internal seam. That gets a little bit more tricky, so I do think that's worth putting down. Main piece of advice is on the rotor is, firstly, none of the components will actually fit the shaft, so you will have to drill them out. Best to drill them out on the sprue. That holds them far more effectively than you can do with your fingers. So keep them on the sprue, drill them out to fit the shaft. Then use the drill shank as like an assembly mandrel to hold the components lined up while you glue them together to create this little stack here. And then also that's a useful way of holding it when you attach the connecting rods as well. All a bit of a involved affair. Try and take care not to knock pieces off. I think I've managed to knock off one or two. It's a bit of a delicate affair, but not too bad really. Alignment with this is, I think, yeah, pretty tricky. So keep it together like this, and then it should go onto the main shaft. Just accept that everything needs clean up, everything needs filing down and some rework. Now these connecting rods, these should be okay. These that span two sprue gates are very easy to break when you're cutting them off the sprue. Cleanup can also be an issue because with these, as I said, I think it's better sometimes to use thin evergreen strip, or just take real care with these. And if they are difficult to clean up, maybe if there's any stub left, make sure it's sort of facing inwards where it's less likely to be seen. The cockpit is going to be quite well assembled before any painting. I'm going to lay down Tamiya grey and then use Vallejo pale blue for the interior and brush paint things up. Thing to notice, the seam on this is quite visible. Cleaning it up is, you risk breaking it. So approach that with real care. Honestly, I don't think you'll see much of a seam on the inside, but you will see it on the outside. And that should butt up against the canopy interior. On the canopy, same issue as with the Kamov 25, very poor definition of the glazing. In this case, a little bit better here, but it's still going to be very difficult to burnish down to determine where the actual glazing goes. But you do need to, I would say, mask this inside and out and then paint this on the inside, get the airbrush to it and give it a good blast. Mask it up on the outside as well. I would probably say mask the outside first and then use the use that as your guideline for masking up the inside. I did use a scribing tool to delineate the actual hatch line where it opens up. So that's where we are. I think it goes together a bit better than the Kamov 25, but really that's not a difficult call for a kit, but having fun with it. So a bit more progress on the Ka-126. Main elements coming together now. Rotor head is done with the initial painting. Cockpit done, cabin done, windows, well, glazing fitted. Aft cabin door now fitted. Major lip here on the back, so that needed sanding down. I'm going to have to apply some filler here because that's going to be clearly a visible step. The glazing looks like it's going to go on without too many difficulties. Better fit than on the Kamov 26, but still some distinct issues around this top edge, so that might need a little bit of extra work. I could see myself actually just leaving an area unmasked along the top edge to make the filling a little bit easier and run a seam on here, or even put in a shim strip. A thin shim strip might actually work quite well there. The masking is going to leave this area in line with the center of the console, which is supposed to be a frame element, visible as well, so that you get some sense of it being a frame. That should be really up close against the glazing. So that's where we are. Going a bit slower this one as anticipated. I'm through work more evenings now, which is okay, and we'll see how it goes. So bit of an update here. Reasonably happy with how it's going, certainly like the shape of it, and generally feel the fit is better than on the Kamov 26. Alright, here we are again. Okay, now some models, this kit has better fit than the Kamov 26, but I've managed to make an absolute headache for myself on this area here on both sides. There's a horrible seam on it, and normally I'm, very used to filling A model seams, but somehow these two areas here and here have just given me one headache after another. I could not get it right. Small patch, I've dealt with this kind much worse on other builds, but it's taken me a lot of reruns with the filler and reworking it to get to a reasonable level. I'm going to have to do some touch up and painting. Overall painting has not been too bad, actually better than I anticipated. The colour matchup is okay. This is meant to have been a decal, but because you've got quite a significant step around the door, I decided to actually paint that in, and I had some stuff that matched up with that okay. Getting the colour matches doesn't seem to have been too bad. So coming along reasonably well. Once I'm happy with it, it's going to get all hit with semi-gloss just to unify it all. Decaling will be starting soon. The rotor blades, the de-icing strip seems to be quite far forward on these, not as prominent or not, just a different arrangement that is on the Hungarian Kamov 26. So prepping these up for painting, trying to get this nice, mask them up so I can get a nice thin strip here. And I can see I'm going to have to redo that overlap piece there. So that's where we are. It is going slower than my last build, and it's kind of supposed to be. Just shows how maybe I'm using my time more on the other things. This is going to now take me into a few more weeks. Well, maybe another week of building, I think, if I throw a couple of hours at it per evening. The wheels have proved interesting. I've tried a slightly different method here for filling the join, in that I put thin super glue on, kept the wheel in rotation, and then put a couple of drops of super glue accelerator and then sanded it back, and that seems to work quite well. So we're getting along. It's looking like what it's supposed to be. I'm reasonably happy with the colour scheme, as it needs a little bit tidy up with that edge, but that's fair enough. The rotor head goes on without too much difficulty either as well. So heading towards the final phases of it. Yeah, you can imagine it's a little bit of a filler hog with some very indistinct details. I'm happier with the rear glazing than I was with the 26. I'm happy with the side glazing. And it looks like what it's supposed to look like, a Kamov 126. Okay. So here we have it. This is the finished Kamov Ka-126. Honestly, it's a stinker, but well worth building. I actually think this presented more headaches for me personally in certain areas than the Kamov 26. The fit and sanding and work required where the aeroflot markings are. Now it doesn't look too bad, but I think in the lead up to it, it was a complete and utter pain in the backside, and I think I might have rushed it in a way. This windscreen wiper is just way oversized, I think, for what it is. It's just, what the hell is going on there? It's on, it's stated as meant to be on, but I just think something's a bit bloody wrong there. Things that are missing from this kit are things like little steps, particularly near the doors. And it's going to be easier if I just take these off. Overall, it looks like what it's meant to be, and I think it's actually a very nice looking helicopter. It's sad that this never really, well, this never was a sales success in any shape or form, because I think as police helicopter, medevac helicopter, naval helicopter, it would be a great subject. Now, because the kit is fairly available, I think this is another this is an absolutely cracking one for what if builds. You could do so much with this. I think is an East German police helicopter, brilliant. East German Air Force, something like that. You could have a lot of fun with this, and it would look the part as well. Fit, well, you would have seen from the other video, so I'm not going to go too far there. As I said, there's a side stripe here that I decided to paint it, because I just didn't like the decals. They wouldn't have sat right going over the door and that side of it. That is probably a bit too dark, particularly as you then transition to black. I just wasn't happy with using the decals for it. So overall, I'm going to use my well-worn expression. It looks like what it's meant to be, and it looks like a Kamov 126. It is just such a shame that the actual 126 was... I'm just trying to put my rotor blades back because I've shimmed this a bit. Was a bit of a damp squib in terms of sales and commercial success, because I actually think it's a very, very nice looking little helicopter. You just got its lines, to me, are right. There's so much to like about it, with all the usual challenges you have of this series of builds. So thoughts: I like it. I like the subject matter. And I think you can have a lot of fun with this kit. I would thoroughly recommend it, as I did the Kamov 26. This has the advantage of being far more available and out there. You can buy it from Hannons, you can buy it from other sources. But when it's gone, it's going to be gone, and I would very be surprised if A model re-release this as a kit anytime soon. Maybe because of its lack of coolness. Not everybody jumps in for things that there weren't many of them about at the best of times. If you have a fascination with Romanian aviation, it's well worth doing as well, because there was, I think, the deal with Azure to build these in Romania, and I think 6 got built there. But I could not, for the life of me, find any images of Romanian Kamov 126s, not even when I did searches in Romanian. So really what you're left with this is the sales aircraft in the Aeroflot markings, if you're going to build anything that's historical. And even in that form, I think it looks good. You know, you've got to have a couple like this. I think if you've got to have a few things with Aeroflot on them, if you have in any collection of Russian aviation, especially light aircraft. I enjoyed the kit. It took me a bit longer to build. I'm back to upping my hours again, and I'm more on the level I want to be at, or 1 build a month rather than 2 builds a month. It'll pick it back up again, but for now, here we have it, and there'll be the photos to follow.